Welcome back everybody, it's DestinysJesus here. Today we're going to be breaking down how Snayzy was able to get 3rd place on NAE and 6th place on NAE East and last week DreamHack. That's an insane achievement considering he was playing 100 plus ping the whole time on NAE East and he's able to get 6th place in finals. We're going to be breaking down exactly what he did in terms of off-spawn strategy, a couple things you guys can take away from his gameplay, as well as what he's doing late game to get such consistent placements. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. One of the main reasons Snayzy did so well on EU and NAE East was how much time he put into perfecting his drop. I can't stress how important it is for you guys to just practice your drop as much as possible in arena. Basically do it as much as possible the whole way through any types of preparation for a tournament. Snayzy absolutely smoked anybody contesting his drop spot in this game. Anybody even coming near him was completely beaten. In this game he actually fights Mohammed off spawn, so we'll look at how he took this fight. This is a really nice bait play that you can do in fighting somebody in a shambles off spawn situation. Snayzy here, he got the ball one shot, prepped as if he was going to exploit. Here he farmed as if he's going to jump through the wall with a ramp behind him. And as Mohammed's just holding his shotgun out, he jumps in, creates kind of an off angle as he comes in. Mohammed hits a tiny shot and he's able to kill him there. Something unorthodox that Snayzy actually did was position himself towards low ground on Forcer. This allowed him to have a really easy chance of getting a refresh that somebody above him gets spammed or gets hit by Storm Surge and then gets server focused. He also carried a harpoon in most of his games. This is something that I talked about in my stretch VOD, if you guys caught that video. And it's basically always trying to use as much of your movement on first moving as possible. You want to keep your mat count as high as possible. And what Snayzy does in this situation is he actually recycles movement, completely saves his own pad. Obviously he sacrifices a little bit of shield, but that's not really too big of an issue, right? He keeps his mat count really high, and also he's still got a pad for second moving or a later rotate. Another big part of Snayzy's success was how much he was able to utilise the harpoon in late game. It's something that we saw Janus do when he won the FNCS Invitational. He basically harpoons here max mats, completely caps himself up, and he's still got that pad ready for the next moving zone. This is a skill that's really underrated in players, but it's extremely useful to get in the habit of doing. It's basically making sure you have a mental checklist that you can run through as you're playing an endgame that will keep you up to taps and make sure you're playing calm, cool, collected, and you can keep your head straight as you enter moving zones. Snayzy in the situation, he's just holding his walls, making sure nobody's exploiting or trying to fight him, and he's instead just chilling out. He's checked his reloads, he's checked his ammo and shields, he's checked his possible loadout that you can use for rotations, that includes harpoon as well within that, and he's also thinking about possibly getting an impact kill. He doesn't need that impact kill yet, so instead his focus is diverted onto zone, onto the minimap, right, and he's seeing, okay, zone's about to close, I'm going to see where it pulls, and he's so ready and aware for this. As soon as zone closes, doesn't even waste any time and he gets straight to front side. That is massive because it allows him to get so much time to look for a refresh, or just an impact kill and hold, possibly a siphon or something similar to that. Here he catches his player doing a crash pad rotate out of his box, sets up here, catches a kill on Teak. Very important here is he makes sure it's airtight, so everything is completely covered off here. He comes up top as well. Something really important, and it's basically just making sure that you're reading how many players are left to inform decisions on taking a fight or going for a refresh or trying to go for height and something similar to that, right? In this situation, there's only 8 other players left with Snayzy in this game. Instead he decides to drop low. Here he just waits for zone to close and pull. Really smart just to wait. Try to squeeze out as much placement as you can. And for FNCS, right, you have to be able to get into those top 5 situations to get extra placement. So here, now he decides to fight. He knows he has to go down and work his levels down with 10 builds left. It's a really nice piece control and link. See how he gets the sidewall off to the right. Boxes him in and gets that kill there. Now he's in a really good situation. Again, he takes his time, assesses the situation, and he builds completely to front side. This is really smart just because it allows him to squeeze so much placement out of this game. And this is a small mistake that I noted in the gameplay, right? In this situation, he had a 1v1. It was him, Bad Sniper on low, Snayzy on mid ground, and the player up on height, which was Sebi. I think, in my opinion, he should have committed to this fight against Bad Sniper. The only way he wins this game playing from mid ground is if he gets extremely lucky and he kills high ground. Bad Sniper instead crash pads up, flies to Sebi on height, and there's really not much Snayzy can do in this situation. Coming into NA, you're going to see a really common situation for Snayzy here. You guys can imagine this where you're putting a really hard rotate. There's a lot of players already in front of you, a lot of players around you. Look at how Snayzy decides to rotate. He pops his pepper, decides to use the natural terrain of the authority wall to come down. He also mirrors these builds here. This means he's completely blocked off the right hand side here. He's also got the hill to play to his advantage. See how he does this rotate. Pepper allows you to swim a little bit faster. See how many angles he covers off here. He mirrors through these old builds, comes up here. Swaps to metal as he comes in, which is really, really important. Then now look at his positioning. He comes up from 1 tile away from this guy, so he can't get coned or trapped or anything. Then he comes in here, gets in metal, gets on this elevation, and now he's in a really good spot. And that rotation was extremely cheap. You have to know those timings of when you can go for a difficult rotate, and going midway there was a really good choice because it means he doesn't get held too much, and he also doesn't get focused because he's going too early. Because of that elevated position Snayzy took on Force Zone, it allows him a really easy job of either recycling movement here or just using his own pad. He's going to opt to use his own pad just so he doesn't risk anything with trying to getting pumped when he's got no shield. This is a really smart choice. Obviously you can pad for free on this zone because it's going into Weeping Woods, so there's a lot of trees that you can use for natural cover. But here he just uses his own pad, and now looking at this flight path, this is really important, making sure that he knows exactly where he wants to end up. He's already marked zone ahead of time, and now in terms of landing spot, he lands on stretch when he's in his cone, makes one space out, again in metal, he goes through most of his metal, and this just means that he's got a lot of hard mats such as brick, which is really good for moving as well. Snayzy's elevated position here on moving zones really pays off. He's able to pop his pepper in his cone, take his time trying to scout pad. He doesn't really see anything near him, so instead he just decides to rotate on foot. That's why having the pepper is so useful. He tries to recycle this pad and gets a little bit scuffed, but because of how many people on that backside and how much elevation he has to begin with, he can just recycle a bounce pad for free, or crash pad even. He takes that for free, carries on his rotate, and it's something that I talk about a lot whenever I do VODs with players, is making sure you pause on your rotates. He doesn't need to rush this full rotate. He's already at the midway point of zone. He doesn't actually need to get pressure by the backside. Instead, he just takes a little pause here, pops his shield, waits for people to stop spraying him. And now what's just really important is he takes his time, reevaluates which way he wants to go, makes a decision, keeps on moving, pauses again, takes his time. Now look. Nice piece control as he comes through there to get that wall, and then he gets straight up off that layer. As soon as you're in a scuff situation, just go up a layer and it will become less scuffed just because there's less players on higher elevation. He gets up a layer, gets in all of his old builds. That's where the brick is so useful for moving zones, just because it's harder to see through and get sprayed through as well. Coming into the end of the second movie, you're going to see a couple of really nice things Snayzy has done here. Okay, he's already deep enough in zone and in brick as well. This is really nice just so he doesn't get spammed or anything like that, as I was saying earlier. He's deep enough in zone here, which allows him to have time to get into his cone for free, as he does here. Scouts his rotate. Obviously, he's already popped that pepper for a bit of white HP and speed boost as well. And he keeps rotating through. And here's where he decides to drop low ground. Dropping low ground, especially in the water zone, is really viable going into late moving zones. There's so much going on, so much noise happening that nobody's really able to focus. Since he gets everywhere, bounce pad rotate that he takes. Here he gets chopped out by stretch to the crash pad again. He decides to swim completely to front side here, get the whole way to the front of the zone. And this is really nice because it allows him to look back for a kill potentially. He looks back and finds Divine trying to cheap top. Gets all his mats in that rotate. And again, he drops completely to low ground, pops a pepper to begin with. Drops into low ground. There's so much going on that he doesn't even get focused as he does this rotate. It's up level. It's front side again into his own box here. And now he's able to pause, take his time, looking for a pick on the backside. And he finds Silent on his back left hand side. It's kind of an interesting peek where he's got Ryan peek advantage and he's able to peek over the cross. It's all the mats off that, resets into his original box, which is really important. Gets back here where he's got all this edit control. And now we're going to see, again, he prioritizes getting very, very front side in this old tarp of somebody else's for third moving. Gets in here. Replace everything. This is really thorough to just replace. And this is actually very smart, right? If you replace stuff this late in the game, there's still 10 players alive. You're likely to find somebody just a level below you. And the people on low ground are always going to be shambles, right? So he replaces that right there. And he finds a leech coming through on his builds. Gets all the mats off him and decides to get forwards again. Always prioritizes just doing that cheap top to get front side and then pausing for a second. That was really nice holding the brick there at it. Brick is so hard to see through late game especially. And this is where he kind of messes up here. He didn't have a centerpiece in his box as he was going for that play, which allows Stretch to take his wall. Stretch runs in his box, hits a nice trade attack. There's not really much you can do in that situation, and he dies. Thing is, he squeezed so much placement out of that game, and even when he was completely shambles on his rotates, he made quite poor decisions in terms of recycling. He got a lot out of it, just by dropping low ground, just by knowing how he could get those picks on the backside. The biggest thing to take away from Snayzy's gameplay is how important it is to practice your drop spot an insane amount. That literally was the main reason he had success. He always had the best drop stat. He got fed so many kills or spawn by people contesting him late, where he had a better drop for the main spawns of guns, as well as the bottom chests. Wherever you're landing at, obviously just research on Loot Lake and practice a couple test runs. Figure out exactly where you want to be gliding for, and just practice an insane amount. That helps so much with how consistent he was able to be, because he never died off spawn. Another massive part is how often he was able to utilize the harpoon late game. Harpoon is still really useful, especially in the meta where there's so many people rotating and dying out of the air with crash pads or launch pads or peppers just dying. If you can use a harpoon, get those mats, you'll be in a really good situation going into later zones where you can keep your mat cap high. Again, also being able to recycle movement is extremely important, as well as just the general positioning tips we covered, right? How elevated he was able to get full zone, how he didn't sacrifice too many mats going center third, instead he decided to rotate later on, as well as how high up and elevated he got on basically fifth zone and then going into first moving zones as well. That's all for this video. If you enjoy the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I'll be streaming these reviews live on my Twitch if you want to make sure to go follow me over there. And also make sure to use my creator code. I've literally got like 3 people using it, so if you guys could use it, I'd really appreciate it. Help support the channel.